Today on Homeworthy, we're stepping inside incredible spaces transformed with the magic of DIY decor. First, we'll step inside a Dutch colonial home in North Carolina filled with vintage touches and DIY projects that infuse charm into every space. Then, we explore a New England-style home, where architectural features were added to give the home a more old-world aesthetic, followed by a family home in Atlanta that has been transformed into a cozy haven with budget-friendly tricks. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Victoria Ford and you're at our home in Cary, North Carolina. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hi, I'm Victoria Ford. I'm a marketer by day, but I run the blog Prepford Wife by night. We're in Cary, North Carolina, which is right outside of Raleigh, and I like to describe my home as African Americana. So my husband Marcus and I live in a 1970 Dutch Colonial, so it looks old but isn't old, but we really leaned into the style of the house, and so it feels very like warm and lived in, a little preppy, a little nautical, but all in all it feels wholly like us. We bought our home in the pandemic. So in 2020, we saw our home for the very first time. We bought it on a whim, looking for a beach house like half the other people at that time. And we saw this home that met all of our needs for the future. And we kind of just decided to go for it. So we saw it online the next day. We put in an offer. 30 days later, we closed. So it was absolutely a whim, but one of the best whims we could have had. And we like to say that when things go quickly for us, that it's absolutely fate, it's faith, and so it was the right decision for us at that time. When we first saw our home, the thing that drew us to it was that it was just good bones. It was very clear that a family had lived in, loved this home, but for the most part, it just needed the cosmetic updates, and they'd lived in it for 30 years, so in the warmest way, it was dated. So we set out to do the entire house over from top to bottom. So lots of removal of wallpaper. We changed the kitchen, we changed all the bathrooms, and really made it a home that was livable for us at this stage in our lives. Welcome to our entryway. So this is our entryway. It is a very slim space. It runs much of the house, but because it is such a slim space, we wanted it to be high impact, and it's kind of the perfect introduction into what our home style looks like. So very traditional colors, very grounded in being a little formal, but a little whimsical. The first choice we made in this space was actually the wallpaper. The wallpaper was the one item where I was like, I know this space needs it. It'll make it feel finished and fun. So this wallpaper is by Rifle Paper Company and York Wallpaper Coverings. And it is just one of my favorite prints. It feels formal, but then also feels like a little fun, a little special. And then from there, we chose this rug. It is a Facebook Marketplace purchase. That is a running theme in our home, is I will thrift it, I will marketplace it, I will find it at an antique store. And so this rug was the second choice I made in this space. And I knew that it was the perfect thing to jump off the other colors from. And so that is like one of my easiest favorite tips, is if you cannot figure out what you're doing in the space, pick one piece that you love and then play everything from it. So lots of blues, lots of reds, lots of greens to choose from in this area. So we kept everything very minimal in the space because it is so slim and so tight. So we went with this IKEA shoe rack. We are a shoes off in the house kind of people, usually. So this is where we keep our shoes. It is 11 inches deep. And I gotta say, I feel like IKEA never gets enough credit for the items that really work, because this has been to maybe 3 or 4 homes with us so far, and it's still kicking. So then we accented this space with little nautical touches. So you'll see this painting that's in here that I found at an antique shop. And you'll also see this chinoiserie umbrella stand. And so pulling in that blue again into this space. And then over here, very slim stand. So we keep dog supplies and baskets. I am a sucker for a good basket. I think it's a great way to hide clutter and compartmentalize. So we've got that basket down there of dog supplies to make taking our dog serious an easy breezy sort of situation at night without needing to kind of finagle and clutter. And then this space transitions perfectly into our dining room. So we followed the same exact color palette in here, jumping off from the reds, the blues, the greens. So you'll see that in the rug, you'll see that in the wallpaper. Again, another Rifle Paper Co. company York wall covering. And then we also did the same thing in this space that we did with the rug, where one piece kind of guides the rest of the colors in here. So for this space, it's the art on the wall. That art is by an artist, Huey Lee Smith. And one of my favorite things for art is a lot of art can be found in the public domain. And if not in the public domain, it can be found from museums, and they'll allow a download, and then you can just print it onto really beautiful, like matte museum quality paper and have art that really shows itself off in your space wonderfully. So that piece is really where all of the colors are pulling from in this room. These chairs were another Facebook Marketplace find. So found them, went and got them 20 minutes after seeing them. For some reason, they just really remind me of my grandma. I feel like she had some of these growing up. And so for these, they were originally their traditional color, but keeping with our original color palette in here, gave them just a quick spray with some spray paint and like a high gloss finish, just so they would feel like shiny and lacquered. And then just pushed them into this Parson table. Again, a Facebook Marketplace find. Something just really easy, simple, clean lines. And then wrapped everything together with this chandelier. The chandelier has like a leather finish on it, which I absolutely loved. In the absence of additional color, I feel like texture is a really easy way to pull things together. So you'll see leathers and you'll see brass throughout the space as well. This buffet was just a really easy piece. We tend to be informal in our home, even in our formal dining. So we don't do a ton of formal dining. The space is primarily used for Uno and puzzles. It's a great table for that. And it's a great table for working from home. And so this buffet in this space is mostly used for serving. So when we have any sort of formal dining in this space, we'll lay out food here and then allow people to kind of serve themselves. And it works really nicely for days where we are like playing a game in this space. It's originally from the store NATO in Raleigh, and we paired it with these lamps. I will buy anything equestrian, essentially. I've got a running joke that my husband will not let me get a horse in our yard. So when I can decorate with horse things, I do. So I got these because they sort of balance the whimsy that's happening in the living room with something a little more serious. And then just pulling in these ginger jars from Lauren Haskell Designs. I absolutely love them. I think the navy is very bright and shiny, and it pairs nicely with the lacquered chairs. So this is our kitchen. Did not look like this when we moved in. This is actually a gut renovation. The kitchen before, actually very similar, but very unfunctional. And so for the most part, we tend to be function before form. And so while we actually kind of loved the look and feel of the previous kitchen, it just made more sense for us to get the kitchen going from the ground up. So we replaced everything in here. Floors, ceilings, cabinets, appliances, the whole 9 yards. And really our guiding force was around the cabinetry. We knew we wanted white cabinets. I know white kitchens are going quickly out of style, but they are still classic. And in this home where we don't get a ton of light, we actually needed the white cabinets to kind of bounce that light around. We paired them with these granite countertops. They are a granite with a wider veining on them, so they feel a little bit like soapstone, but still pretty easy to maintain like granite is. And then we did brass fixtures in here. For the ceiling, our home is from 1970s, and so asbestos is always a concern. And so for us to eliminate the popcorn ceiling, we went with this shiplap on the ceiling here, and then we painted it blue. It is very much a Southern tradition and goes back to like Gullah Geechee tribe that for the most part, if you paint a ceiling haint blue, like that's the color, if you paint a ceiling haint blue, then it'll keep away ghosts. We do not have a porch on this home, so we decided to do it for our kitchen. This is really the heart of our home, like most people's home. And so it felt like a really appropriate place to do it and a great place to pull in color where there wasn't any previously. So for all of the cabinets in here, we did very simple closed cabinets. We did them on the uppers as well. And then lots of drawers on the lower half of the space. Function first. Uppers, function first. I know that there is like a open cabinetry movement going, but I am not neat enough to pull that off. And so my answer to that is this one cabinet on the end. It is a darker wood finish and it's got glass doors with this wiring on it, and it's where we keep all of our daily dishes. So it is see-through, and it is the only cabinet that is 100% organized, but we don't keep it too precious, too finished. It's all of the glassware that we've collected over the years, and it's about the same color and same patterns that we've got playing in the rest of our home. Lots of polka dots, lots of stripes, lots of rattan. And then over here in this space, we did an eating nook. We're always going to do a dining nook no matter where we are. We've done it in rentals with simple construction, and we did it in this home. And we've got cabinetry at the bottom. Function first. Anywhere we can introduce additional storage, we're absolutely going to do so. And then we just paired it with this Schumacher fabric. Again, never met a stripe that I didn't like, and kind of played with these patterns that are happening here in this space. This quick, easy gallery wall is one of our families. I went and pulled through photos that kind of leaned into the colors that we were playing with in this room. So that off red, that off blue, and then just framed them with all of the bottoms lining up. Anytime there's a gallery wall, I'm always interested in what's a new way that you can present it. And this one is kind of my favorite, lining up with the banquette. This banquette back is actually a quick like nighttime project. It is just like a spare piece of this beadboard from the wall, and it is layered with some spare foam that I had around and some batting. And then my poor construction is held together by beautiful construction. A friend of ours owns a bag company, American Layers, and I don't have a need for a purse necessarily, but the construction is always beautiful. And so he made me these leather straps after I told him what I was interested in the kitchen, and they just tie it together in a really nice way. I'm always interested in pairing like highs and lows, easy projects with more formal craftsmanship, and so I absolutely love these. And not only are they beautiful, they are actually holding this banquette up. So really grateful for him and his construction, since the rest of the project was just a quick like 2 a.m. fix over here. So that's our banquette. So before we head to our living room, we're gonna go into our powder room first. It's right off the space from the entryway and the kitchen. I think a powder room is the perfect opportunity to bring in color and print in a way that you wouldn't ordinarily in a larger space. So in here, we went with this wallpaper to our original point around our home feeling a little African Americana. It's always gonna be kind of like Ralph Lauren American style, but through our own lens. And this wallpaper is an easy one of it. Anywhere that I can incorporate denim, I'm gonna do so. And anytime I see a quilted anything, I'm gonna get it. So for this one, this wallpaper is by the company Mind the Gap, and I think it's called Woodstock Burrow, and I loved it. It was love at first sight. I think I checked out for it 30 seconds after seeing it, and because it's such an organic and fun print, I paired it with this mirror, quick fix from Amazon to pull into this space, and then these sconces, which have lived in no less than 3 rooms in our house at this point, and just made it really simple because it's such a small space. We went with this console sink. It's got, you know, just the traditional polished nickel legs so that it breathes underneath. So in a space that's this tight, want to make sure that there is somewhere for your eye to visually settle, and this is a good way to do that. So we paired that with cowboy art. I'm a real sucker for any kind of black cowboy, and so when I saw this art, I knew I had to have it. So I brought it into this space because it is high impact, but in such a small space, it really lends itself to filling it up. So absolutely could not resist bringing it in. And there are photos of my husband in our bathroom. If I can include family photos, I will, but I found some photos of him when I was digging recently of him dressed as a cowboy, and so perfect for the bathroom. So pull those into that room at this time. And then we'll transition us to our living room. Welcome to our living room. So this space is blue coated. I'm obviously a sucker for blue. This color was chosen by my husband. He has very few decor requests, but he's my favorite client, so I felt like I should meet that request. The color is Endless Sea by Valspar, And it's a beautiful color in every single space. It's one that's going to play well. Even if you've got like a basement, it's going to be great. And so it's a really nice way to start if you want to do color drenching. So we pulled this into this space, and it was kind of our guiding light in this space. And we've been treating it the same way you would white. It is not white, obviously, but it is just like another color in the room instead of one that we are pulling into other things. So our living room is split into two spaces. The back space is a little more chill, a little more relaxed. You can kind of spread out, watch TV in this area. The first thing that we bought for it was this tufted leather couch, a Facebook Marketplace find, of course, and went into it knowing that I wanted a tufted leather couch. I like that it feels a little bit like a library, but then also you can kind of throw yourself into it at the end of a long day. Paired it with these high back armchairs. And you'll see that in this room, all of the primary pieces, curtains, chairs, tables, sofas, all of them are going to be standard basic colors. And really where the color is coming in this room is through accessories. So pulling in quilted pillows, pulling in a rug that has that kind of patterned feel, and then kind of playing with additional texture and pattern throughout those pillows, the rugs. And then on the back wall in this space, the ultimate accessory. This set of built-ins was not here when we first moved here. We put them in. I saw a similar photo on Pinterest, and I was like, that is it. That person is brilliant. Let's do it. So you'll see these built-ins here that have room for storage, always looking for a way to hide clutter, keep it kind of in check, but then also areas to display. There are books in every single one of these spaces. They're spread everywhere. We are a book family, but somewhere to put books, but also display items that we love from travels. And then last but not least, space for firewood. We are in North Carolina, so not a lot of opportunity to actually have fires going, but if it drops below 55, we're on it. Fireplace is on. And so it was really important to us that we did that, and most importantly, it makes for a really beautiful feature. So it is a really nice combination of form and function. And then we're pulling in other slightly nautical pieces. There is a little guy on the mantle, a little sailor. My husband bought one of these years ago, just one. He bought it because he was black, and we were like, how cute is that? And then we just kept buying them. So every single room in our home has at least one little sailor. They are everywhere. And then every time we see one, we get it. So one on the mantle, but they're also in other little places throughout the space. Let's go to the other side of our living room. So this side of the space is slightly more formal within the same sight line. So we did need to keep the color palette pretty consistent. The people who lived here before us, very grateful for them. The one change to the structure of the house they made was to take down the wall in the center. Very grateful for them. It lets in all of this beautiful light. It allows it to flow throughout the space without any stops. And so very grateful that that was a project that they tackled before we ever got here. So in this room, you'll see that what is grounding the space in all of this light is this darker sofa, just like in the back side of the room. So grateful for the light for that reason. It is a rolled arm English tufted sofa. Found it on Facebook Marketplace. Had it reupholstered in this gorgeous performance velvet from Schumacher. I am a firm believer in making sure that the pieces that are in the space are going to last, that they're going to be well made, and that they're also going to be able to withstand the test of folks. We try and make sure that everything in our house is not precious in any way. So it is a sofa that is in our more formal area, but you can throw yourself on it and be comfy. You can have a drink without worrying that something is going to happen to it, God forbid. And so really wanted that to be a sofa where you could still relax, even though it's in this slightly more formal area. Adjacent to the sofa are these striped chairs. Found them for a song in an antique store and paired them with these pillows. So they're the same pillows from the other side of the room. Friends of ours own a company where they make shoes, and it's called Rayipsa, and they sell pillows as well. And I could not resist buying like 100 of them, so they're all over our house, honestly. And they just pull in a nice layer of texture and color and pattern again. So you'll see those throughout the room. There's also this quilting fabric that we pulled in through the pillows. So even though this sofa is quite bright, It is still a very like standard basic in this home, and then we're pulling in those colors and that texture in the accessories. That's a really great way for us to do them because not married to them so much. And then the biggest, boldest piece in this room is this little print. It's called Me by the artist Colin Bootman, and absolutely loved it at first sight and was thrilled to kind of realize that it went with the colors in here perfectly. So obviously I needed to buy it. And one of my favorite ways to treat art that's large but not precious, it's just a print. So it's mounted on a piece of canvas, just spray adhesive on a piece of canvas, and then painted the edges in black to make it feel seamless. But if you've got a piece of art that is not going to be like obliterated by the sun and you don't feel too bad doing it, it's a really easy way to make art live without needing to buy a frame that would have cost me more than the print. So decided to go with that here in this space and really loved it. And then last but not least for this room, lighting. Anytime I can pull through lots of different lighting, I'm gonna do so. I think one way to make a space feel full and pretty and like designed is to pull in different kinds of lighting. So an above light, which we rarely use, and then you'll have task lighting and ambient light. And so you'll see that throughout each of these spaces is lighting at different levels. And I think it's a fun way to also pull through a DIY. Lighting can be high end, it can be precious, and we've got a couple of those, but it could also just be fun. This light here it's got these pleated lampshades that are the same fabric as the curtains in the living room. Just a really quick DIY where I just covered some lampshades that we previously had with the fabric. Everything does not have to be like polished and finished is what I'm telling myself. You can be a beginner. And so just a fun, quick project that I did. Same for these lampshades. Had a spare piece of velvet, some spare fabric, and decided to cover them and have pleated shades. And then these lamps are also a DIY. Bought some carboys, put a lamp kit inside of it. It's honestly pretty simple. Just drilled a hole for the lamp kit and then put a shade on top of it. So really easy way to bring fun and personality into a space and also have a functional light. This lamp is sitting on this bar cart. My husband and I do not drink. However, we bought this bar cart as an accessory for our wedding, and it's just been through like several houses with us since then. It's a piece that we cherish, and every now and then we actually do need something off of it. And so it's been a really fun piece to have in our space as well. And it's nice to have that kind of memory attached to it. So very fond of this one. I think the thing that gravitates me to the pieces I choose are the right pieces for the right home. I grew up with a mother who accidentally made me believe I could do absolutely anything. And so I always grew up with like painting a wall on a Saturday and like changing out the mantle on a Friday. And so for the most part, I always kind of knew that I could make a house a home. And then just leaning into the style of the house takes me there. So for this house, it's a Dutch Colonial. So you'll see lots of those kind of attributes here in this space. And then for my style, it's those little touches that feel like me, feel like my life, feel like my home with my husband, and just pulling those through in a way that feels like appropriate for the home, but also feels so much like our existence. This is our upstairs landing. We continue that wallpaper from downstairs into this space. We wanted it to feel continuous. There wasn't really a good place to break it, so we just pulled it on up. This is our primary bedroom. All of the doors in our home are labeled with a number. A little bit hotel, but also a little bit makes it easier to send people upstairs and say, yeah, you're in room number 4, versus needing to point out which room it is. So this is our primary bedroom. I am a person who insists upon having a dog, even though I have allergies. So not a lot of fabric in this space. We kept it very simple with bamboo shades instead of doing curtains. And so because we are missing out on that layer of texture and fabric and warmth that curtains would bring, we actually decided to do this wallpaper. So this wallpaper is another one from Rifle Paper Company. And we paired it with these high beadboard walls, so a little bit of a callback to our kitchen space. So they're the exact same beadboards, and we gave it a really nice simple ledge behind the bed. It is utilitarian and that it's there for storage, but it also gives us a really great place to save art in this space. We've got, due to our home style, not even windows. So every single room in the upstairs has like one window that's on a wall that breaks it up. and then it has like another window that's squarely in the middle. So our bed in this room is placed beside that window with the ledge here, and then the bed is in the center. Because we do not have a window on the other side, we needed to make sure that design would kind of follow the space instead of the other way around. So in order to mimic this window, we did larger art on that side, just a way to play with the eye, and then decided to go with mismatch nightstands. There was no way we could make them match because of how little space is on the other side of the bed. So we went with something slimmer on that side and something wider with more storage on this side for me. Thank you to my husband for allowing that to happen. And then with the bed, kept that same feeling of texture and print going with this bedding by the company store. So pulled in kind of those mixed prints, a striped here, a window pane there. Love a mixed print. And then like a lot of the other spaces, we've got a jute rug in here. Something simple makes it so that it's not too much pattern. You need somewhere for your eye to rest. And then our dog Sirius, who is around here somewhere, has a home in every single room. He insists upon it. So a space for him. And then just a way for us to introduce more storage. It's an older home, so we've got regular traditional closets that work for us well, but needed some additional storage here. So we brought in this antique dresser, and I am a sucker for mixed woods, as you'll see in this space. So no wood is off limits for me. So wanted another type of wood to bring into here. And then this piece is Young Woman with Peonies, and it's a really nice way to bring in additional color. So all of the color in this space is playing off of that one piece. So you'll see hints of purple, like in her cloth on her head. You'll see hints of yellow, green in this space. So like I said, a really easy way to pull through a design if you're not quite sure what you want to do is lean on one piece that you absolutely adore, and everything else can kind of follow from there. So color, texture, following suit from there. And then over here on this wall, leading to our primary bathroom, is this wall of pegs. So we need additional storage. My husband is a hat lover, and I am a sucker for an LL Bean tote. And so this wall is usually positively like reaming with all of them. And so we've gotten it down for you guys, but for the most part, when you're in this space, it's just gonna have lots of hats, lots of totes. Anything that makes a more efficient journey out the door in the morning is what we're gonna do. So let's transition into our primary bath. So this is our primary bath. Because we did the bathroom first, we followed the beadboard in the bedroom and made it at the same height. And so when you transition, we didn't want it to be too jarring for the eye. So in this space, it's that same beadboard, a really nice way to add texture as well as color. And we wanted to give it some height as well. So it is a 60-inch beadboard. And then on this wall, we've got two vanities. So we did do this bathroom from the top down. It was a gut renovation, but we wanted it to still feel true to the house, true to the design. So we went with more traditional fixtures in the space. And so these vanities are one of our favorite ways to do that. I know there are people who do not believe in double vanities, but for us, they are the correct answer. It is a really nice way to make sure that like each person has their space. They are powder room sized, so each person has enough space that we can get ready in here in the morning without kind of bumping into each other and being in each other's way. And then we did matching vanity mirrors in here as well, just like a quick purchase from World Market. This is marble, and so we're balancing high end with just like a quick, easy purchase as well. And I think a really great way to do that is the spaces, pieces that are less permanent. You can just go get something. It's okay. And so in this space, we've mixed metals, we've mixed hardware. So gold and brass playing nicely in here with chrome finishes on the sink. And then we've got a way to pull everything up off the countertop, trying to avoid clutter. So toothbrushes and soap are gonna be in this kind of trio that's coming off of the wall here. Because we loved this color so much, we chose it based off of the shower actually. Chose the tile first, color matched as well as we could to the walls. This color is Smoky Azurite Blue by Sherwin-Williams, and it goes with the shower tile that's in here. We chose to do shower tile that is gonna wrap the entire space. And so it is this blue that goes all the way up to the ceiling and then coats across as well. So we did a slightly sloped ceiling to make that happen. And then we kept the chrome hardware going in the shower. I like a rain shower. I love them. I think they're always going to be a ton of fun. But if you're going to do that, gotta put a handle. People need a handle if you're going to have a rain shower. And mine is conveniently mounted at knee height, so I can take a shower from the handle sprayer if I need to, but it also makes it just so much easier to clean in that space as well. In here, the floor is really the star of the show. We stuck with these hex tiles. It's a more traditional print. You've seen it time and time again. We went with it in a larger size on this flower design and then carried it in through the shower as well. It just felt so special to kind of take it in through the shower, so everything in the space feels very similar. Just an easy rug. I love a rug, so pulled in this rug. And my thought here is, if an antique rug hasn't gone from 100 years plus, then nothing I'm gonna do is gonna hurt it. So felt it was okay to put that in the bathroom. And then last but not least, for our shower, the door itself was a very conscientious thought as well. Because we wrapped the tile around the entire shower, it turns into a bit of a steam shower. And so we did a full length door and then put a little trap on it if you want to let out the steam. You do not have to sit in there roasting, which is my husband's preference. So I've put that little trap on there to let out the steam, and it also allows it to dry nicely when the day is done and you kind of just need the shower to air itself out. So that's our primary bathroom. My favorite room in our house is absolutely my office. It's a room that was never supposed to be. The office was previously a bedroom, and we split it in half by taking a closet to make a laundry room. And so it made this teeny tiny cozy little room that's all my own. It's pink, it's girly, and it's a little different from the rest of our house, but feels exactly like I hoped it would. Right off of the primary bedroom is my office. So this office is number 2. And it is a very small space. As you can see, this space used to be a part of a larger room. We cut a part of it and used that for a laundry room, which we'll go into next. But for now, we are in the office. This color is malted milk. I've used it in our previous home and absolutely loved it. And usually I try not to repeat a color, repeat a project, but it's one of my favorites. And so I could not resist pulling it into this space. Everything in this room is quintessentially me. So the rest of our home leans into the home style, but for this room, it is very much like all of the things that I love. And because it is so small and so warm, it's a little cluttered. So grateful that it is just me in this space. During the pandemic, I worked from home quite a bit and still do work from home quite a bit. So it's nice to be in a space that feels very warm and lived in, and very much like a space that feels like me. All of the furniture in here is from our previous home. This desk is a quick IKEA hack. I fell in love with a Kate Spade desk when I was in college. There was no way I was affording that desk in college. And so this is a quick IKEA hack of just painting the legs, giving it polka dots and some really nice gold hardware so that it would feel similar but a little different. And honestly, it's been going with me for years and years because that's how long I've been out of college. And so it really is one of my favorite pieces, and I've centered the room around it time and time again. Also in this space are these bookshelves, purely function at this point. Every single extra book, lots of work is on this shelf as well. And I think it's a great way to pull in personality, but then it's also a great way to just have storage. I'm not a huge purse gal, but I do have purses, and so they're on the top shelf. Some additional decor items have landed on the second shelf. More purses, of course, because my blog is Prepford Wife. If I see a bag or anything that has wife on it, I'm apt to buy it, so those are on that shelf as well. And then these storage boxes are here for any additional clutter, just things that need to be corralled. All of those are going to be in that space. This wall has all hats. If I'm seeing a hat, it's going on the wall. Easy way to get storage and not lose shape. And just like a simple nail in the wall does the trick. Over here, it's going to be just a quick cork board. If you've ever sent me a letter, it's more than likely landed on the wall. Just a really nice way to be sentimental without letting myself get out of control in here. So everything that's ever arrived in the mail is on that space, And I love having like reminders of the folks who are in my life. And then as with every room, this room has art in it that's culturally relevant to us. So any sort of piece that I've loved over the years has landed itself in here. And so just like down in the kitchen, we've got a gallery wall that is hung in a fun way where all of the pieces are kind of straddling that midline. And my favorite thing about it is they're just pieces I've collected over the years. And by putting them in kind of that unified formation, it gives them structure. And I just love it. And it makes for a really nice zoom background since the desk is right in front of it. So this is the office, and I'll show you the laundry room that used to be a part of the same space next. So this is our laundry room. It is a very small space. On our list of things when we bought our house, on our list was everything met by this house with the exception of a laundry room. And this is not our first place that we've lived together where my husband has been like, I really wanted a laundry room. So this is another thing where it's like, I can make it happen for my favorite client. So our laundry used to be in our kitchen, and don't love that marathon every day to take laundry downstairs. So we found a spare corner in our home between the closet that used to be in the office and a closet that used to be in a hallway. And we scrapped them together to make this little piece. So you'll see that little bar there, which is where the closet used to be off to the side. And it made for the perfect nook to put washer and dryer. So we went with this one because it was space efficient, tiny but mighty, and then built around it. So we did this set of pantries from IKEA coming in strong again, but it was like the perfect size to squeeze into this space. And then the real wow factor in this room is the wallpaper. A friend of ours, Sarah Fitz, makes this wallpaper, and on any given day you can kind of find me in a blue and white striped tee, and it's a laundry room, so it was perfectly appropriate. I knew if we ever did have a laundry room that we would be pulling it in, and so super happy to have it in this space. And to play off of the wallpaper, we did all of the trim in this room in navy, and that applies to the pantry as well. And then just brought in a little place to sit here to spare you from our clutter inside of our pantry. We're able to hang clothes for them to dry. And then also there's a little folding board that comes out. And so the space is very small, but we're making it work and function for us in the house that we have. And then there's also a sink in this corner. It is an antique sink. It looks exactly like the one that I had in my home growing up. And it's the perfect size for this space because we have so few square feet. We wanted to make sure that we made the best of it, and you're gonna need a sink in a laundry room. So it was the greatest place to put it. And then tying in with the walls and the trim is this flooring. This floor is a smaller tile turned into larger diamond prints. I could not find anyone who at the time had navy and white large form tiles. So these are from Fire Clay Tiles, and it's their navy blue color and their white set up in this diamond formation. And it is such a small space that it is very high impact when paired with the wallpaper. So I absolutely loved it from the moment I saw it. So this is our laundry room. And on the way out, you can see this door. It is from an architectural salvage. Anytime we are looking for a way to pull in something fun and old, because I think every space needs a little bit like a wedding, something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. So this is our something old in this space that is brand new right down to the walls. And so we found this at an architectural salvage, and we pulled in this frosted wall so that we would always get light, or this frosted glass so that we would always get light into our hallway. And it just makes for a really nice touch to this space. Now I'll take you into our guest bedroom. So this is our guest bedroom. We kept it quite simple in this space. We went with this spindle bed. Feels antique, but lots of antique beds do not come in a queen size, which is painful for guests. So this one is actually from Target. Really simple, easy buy, lends itself nicely to our style, and it's the perfect platform to continue to style things out on it. And so you'll see these blankets that are the perfect blend of kind of that Americana style that we talked about before. And I am, again, a sucker for a quilt. So it was a great way to bring that in as well. We started in this room with the walls. This is the same paint as in the kitchen on the ceiling. So pulling those through lines throughout the house. I don't think every single room has to look the same. In fact, I encourage it not to, but we do like to have those nice ties that make the home feel like a continuous color palette. So pulled this space in with this color, and it's just a really calming, soothing color. It's perfectly restful if you are a guest in our home. Above the bed, we've got this gallery wall, very tiny, but they are flashcards of the ABCs. It is a series that was produced with Black children in Chicago, and absolutely fell in love with them as a way to teach the alphabet in a culturally appropriate way, but then also just love them because they're adorable, and they make for a fun gallery wall where all of it feels the same. And this gallery wall is from Framebridge. If you want to upload photos on their website, they will do it for you, which is my favorite thing. So could not resist that. And then over here, we've got this desk. We've got 2 guest rooms in this house, and for both guest rooms, the styling and the format is the same, where we've got a bed and then we've got a desk. Our siblings live very close to us in the area, and we are home base a lot of the times because our parents are in the northern states. And so both of our guest rooms have the format of being like a work from home situation. So there's going to be a desk as a utilitarian nightstand, and we've had this desk for years at this point. It's just following us from space to space, and I love that it's got that campaign hardware, but is also perfectly functional. And then in each guest room, we do a little tote of goodies if you need them as a guest, and they just kind of follow around in the room. We've got a quilt rack for spare blankets. We are a kind of folk who keep our house on ice cold, so extra blankets are always going to be necessary for the folks who are staying in our home. And then some pieces rounding out the space. We've got these tennis rackets and this state fair sign. We are from Philadelphia and New York respectively, but anytime we can pull in a piece that's going to feel like where we are, where home is, we'll do so. So this fun little state fair sign is, it's for the Raleigh State Fair, and we just loved it at first sight. And then for these tennis rackets, found them at an antique store. And the draw for me was that they had a name on it. And I loved that that name told a story. I quickly looked up this gal, and she was like described as a woman who had a red lip while hiking. And I was like, there it is. There's a woman who I absolutely am happy to lean into. So I always love when styling pieces in a space tell a really great story. This is our guest bathroom, and it's another space that we renovated from top to bottom, but we still wanted it to feel like it had always been here. And for this space, we began with the tiled floors. So we went with this 1x1 inch tile floor, and we loved this bathroom when we first got here. I think the thing about the folks who lived here before us is that this house felt very loved in, lived in, and this room previously had this really cool nautical border. And even though we were taking stuff away from it, we wanted it to still feel like itself. And so we went with this nautical theme in here, beginning with the floor. So we chose this 1x1, and we went with these colors that we just love. They're not colors that necessarily go together, but they're colors that we love and we use frequently. So the yellows, the blues, the greens, and then tied all the space together by just pulling them through. So in here we did the walls. They are a subway tile, but a longer format. So it feels modern, but then still timeless at the same time. And we went with navy blue because we like blue, but also still really timeless. And we're gonna love it for the long term. And we wrapped this same tile into the shower as well, similar to our other bathroom, taking the shower all the way to the ceiling. And then also going with that chrome hardware for the rain shower with the handle in the space. The thing that we loved the most about this room is that you already know I'm a sucker for an antique sink. So we pulled in this Kohler sink and we put it inside of this dresser. It's actually a blanket trunk, and it was way too short for the actual function that we wanted to use it for. So we were torn between, do we float it? Do we put it on some sort of like casters? Like, how do we make this taller? And our contractor in this space actually just like cut a little hole in it and gave us an extra piece of wood, and we left it kind of rough and rugged to the point about having like something old, something new. We did not want this to be a perfect piece, so maybe one day I'll go back and I'll sand it all and make it the same color. But for now, it's really functioning the way we designed it to, while still feeling like the antique that it's always been. And so we instantly loved it. Last but not least in this space, how we tied through all of the colors. So pops of yellow, easy ways to do that with like towels and flowers. And then pops of nautical, an ode to the bathroom that it was before. So I collected these boat prints, which they're in other places in our house as well, but collected these boat prints from antique stores over time. The only one that's not an antique is this one, and it's from Blakely Made on Instagram. And it was kind of the first nautical piece that we had of this bunch, and everything else is kind of working around it in this corner gallery wall. And then pulling in more mustard color through the towels, as well as through this bench that's right under the window, and an easy opportunity to add texture, but also somewhere to throw a towel. There's not a ton of wall in this room because we did this art, so it gives a good place for you to just kind of throw your towel. We've also got hooks in here, but you know, want to make sure that this house is not precious in any way. So a great way to do that. We've also got the tub area in here. It's got a niche. The niche is at the house at the height that I need it at. I feel like a lot of the times when you see design, it's designed for and by men. So you're always like, that niche is way too high for me to actually like shampoo from. So it's at the height that I'm actually using it at. And then this tub is one where when we were hunting for a tub for this space, we wanted it to feel original to this space, but we also wanted it to be one where you could put your knees and your chest in at the same time. With old houses, that's not always the case. So we made sure that we pulled that in here, and it is as functional as it is beautiful for us. And so really happy with that tub. So this is our guest bathroom. Home means to me somewhere safe, somewhere warm. It's always going to be constantly changing and constantly growing as you live within your home. And so really it's the place that's going to be a soft place to land at the end of the day.
Today on Homeworthy, we're visiting the enchanting and peaceful home of DIY pro Dana Dorr, the content creator behind the blog Adored House. Although her home was built in 2010, she purposefully gave it the aesthetic of an old home, adding intentional architectural features and infusing it with a collection of vintage finds. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Dana Dorr from Farmingdale, New Jersey. Come on in. So here we are in the entryway. Something that I really wanted when we were house shopping is some type of a grand entryway, so I could have a grand entryway table with flowers, and that didn't happen. This house had pretty much the smallest entryway out of all the houses we looked at, but I just knew that meant that I had to be creative and think about how could I maximize this space. So I found this mirror on Facebook Marketplace, and it was grand and it had character, and while it like really doesn't function as a mirror very well, it does reflect the light and makes the space seem larger. And it had a little bit of character and age, and I just thought to add a little shelf would kind of complete the feel and give this a real entryway feel. So the shelf holds some decorative items. We throw our keys or our glasses down there. Our beach bags are here, towels ready to go outside if the girls want to go in a neighbor's pool or set up a picnic, my hat for all the soccer games. It's a small area, but mighty. And this rug, I get questions all the time about this rug on my Instagram. It's an Etsy find, and it takes a beating. We've had this for 2 years, and it still looks brand new, but it traps all the dirt. It's where the shoes get dumped when all the neighborhood kids come over. We've lived here for 8 years. We bought it in 2016. It was hard. It was hard to find everything that was on our list. I wanted a house with age and character, but we wanted a really good school system and quiet streets. And ultimately we led to buying this house, which was a practical buy over a aesthetic buy for me. But it was a blank slate, and we've been able to do lots of projects in here to really make it our own. Yeah, so I installed the board and batten in here. I put the little planks on the walls because I knew I wanted some texture. I knew I wanted some visual interest. And also the ceilings in here are only 8 feet tall. So I was like, how can I incorporate a lot of vertical lines to make this space seem larger? So that was a really quick and easy DIY. It was one of my first DIYs I ever did, and we still love it. I know when we moved in here, it was at the height of shiplap. Everyone was putting shiplap everywhere because Joanna Gaines was telling everybody to, but something in me, some intuition said like, shiplap's gonna phase out, do something a little bit more timeless. So that's when I hit Pinterest and I was like, I think a board and batten direction will be great for here. So yeah, like I said, adds texture to the walls, but also elongates the space and makes it feel a lot taller than it really is. So this house was a total blank canvas when we looked at it. I mean, there was almost zero character whatsoever, except for this newel post. And that is what I was like very excited about walking in. I said the previous homeowners who built this house, they left everything very blank, but they did infuse some character with this newel post. And this really dictated the direction that I put the style of the house in. So very timeless, classic, a little bit of a New England flair to it. So now just off the entryway, I'll take you into our dining room. This was actually the first space that we did when we moved into this house. I had a pretty strong vision. I knew I wanted the board and batten on the walls. I have pictures of myself doing this space when I was, let's see, probably like 8 months pregnant, huge belly with Cece in here with a nail gun, just learning how to use a nail gun for the first time too, installing the board and batten trim. And it took forever and there's lots of mistakes. And 8 years later, there's a lot of things I want to revisit in this space, but it functions really well for us. We are the hosts when it comes to holidays. So I could squeeze the whole family around this table. Lots of meals, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, they're all here at the Doorhouse. My husband's a chef, so everybody wants to come and eat here. But this room, it's been fun to kind of watch it evolve as my taste has evolved with living here. And like I said, I do want to go in eventually and do some tweaks, but it's just nice to see that for some furniture that I picked out 8 years ago, I'm still loving. Like these chairs, I bought them at Anthropologie 8 years ago and they are still my favorites. They still work great. This cabinet here, this is one of my top Facebook Marketplace finds. It was a china cabinet that came out of a home in Little Silver, New Jersey, and it came out of an old Victorian home. I had been looking something for this space for a while, and this popped up on Marketplace. The woman told me to come and see it, and she was selling her home. She had restored this piece herself, so beautifully done, and basically she was interviewing me to see if I was the right person to buy this piece from her. She said she had some other people and she asked them what their intentions were with it. And they were like, oh, I'm gonna paint it for my living room, or I'm going to do something else to it. She said, Dana, I will sell this to you as long as you promise never to paint it. And the thought has crossed my mind a little bit, but I just feel like I owe it to the woman that sold this to me, that put so much hard work and love into it, to keep it as is. So I treasure it. I love it. And I love the story that came along with it. And I love that I have a little piece of another woman in the community who loves furniture and DIY as much as I do. There's nothing in here that's super special. A lot of things I've just collected over time. I knew that since I wasn't going to paint it, that I had to change the direction for what I was going to put in it. And so I just started collecting a lot of ironstone, a lot of white ceramics, so that it would pop off of this English pine finish. So a lot of it's been thrift store finds, yard sale finds, just white pieces that will pop off of the wood really nicely. Something that I was really drawn to when we started decorating this house were botanical charts. And so I do have a number of them in the room. I just love the kind of scientific nature feel about them. I think our home really reflects the things that we love. And that's the outdoors, that's the beach, that's water, that's flowers, it's nature. And in here, because we painted the room a shade of green, I just felt like this would be the room that would represent the plants and the outdoor nature. So there are a lot of little like scientific leaf references through the space. So this was, again, one of our first purchases. I am just very proud of myself that I picked out pieces that I still like, because sometimes I look back at my Pinterest boards and I'm like, what was I thinking? But this light fixture, I bought it from Schoolhouse Electric. They no longer make it. I've seen some people try to do DIYs of it, but it's really cool. It's twisted wire and it's adjustable, but it kind of lends to that scientific look that I was going for with the botanical charts. So last year I started collecting these Majolica begonia leaf plates. I was just really drawn to the colors and the glazes, and Majolica is highly collectible. So I try to find the ones that are really cheap and chipped that nobody wants anymore so that I can grow my collection. But I love the colors, and I definitely think these will lend to the future of this room. I've started to hang them because they work really well in this space, but I just love like the blues and the greens and the pops of pink. So now we're going to go through the main hallway in the house, and this will take us back to our kitchen area and our living room. Again, I did the board and batten in here. It really elongates the space, brightens it up, and makes a nice transition into our kitchen and living room. So this area was by far the biggest transition in our home. And it's funny, I was thinking about this the other day, but the vision for this space transformation came to me pretty much as soon as I saw the house. And what that was, when we bought the house, it was just this little wall that's popping out here. And all of this was open. So it was just kind of this weird partition wall that separated the basement door from the garage door. And there was no symmetry. And something that I love about old homes is that there is a lot of symmetry. Nowadays, it's more open concept style. Symmetry is not as important, but really, like, if you look at an old home, they paid so much attention to symmetry inside and out. So I knew immediately when I saw this space that we would have to, or have someone build another wall to make it symmetrical. And I sat with that idea for a long time. We couldn't find people to build it. 2020 came, we still couldn't find anybody to build it. So we just decided to take that on ourselves. And it was not as crazy as we thought it was going to be. But that definitely opened up a can of worms. It's kind of like you give a mouse a cookie. That led to a lot more renovations in this space. So once this wall was built to match the other one and have that symmetry, I decided to build a transom to add some more character to that space. So none of this is original. This was all hand built by me, but I even made all of those little glass windows because I had a lot of time during the pandemic when I was home. So this was a very budget-friendly project. I originally looked into buying those windows to put up there, and I think each window was going to be over $200, and I was able to make each for about $35. So super proud of this. This changed the total look and feel of my home, and I think it's it's definitely one of the most liked views on my Instagram page. It's just the transition from where this was to what it is now, I'm super proud of. So once this space was divided up by building this other wall, I was able to utilize this dead space in the middle. The previous owners just had this open, and it was nice to have that openness, but we really wanted a kitchen table. We do use the dining room a lot, but we wanted a space where the four of us can just sit and have dinner during the week, or the girls can sit and have breakfast. So this whole area didn't really even exist or wasn't utilized. So I had a rectangular table in here, but it never really fit. It was always a little bit hard to navigate around, especially since this is such a thoroughfare in the home. And I guess it was about 2 years ago, I was scouring Facebook Marketplace for a round English pine table for what felt like months. I finally found one, but it was 3 or 4 hours away in upstate New York. But it just so happened that the week that I found it, the girls had 2 days off of school for some break. And I went online, I looked to see if I could find us like an Airbnb or a little overnight hotel or something so that I could plan a trip around getting this table without making it seem like I'm just dragging my family 3.5 hours to go get a table. And I did it. I was able to book a hotel, which was a really fun hotel, get everybody packed, and get us up there within a couple hours. And then the next day I just said, well, guys, I happened to find a table on Facebook Marketplace. Let's go pick it up. So totally meant to be the perfect shape for this space. And it allows like a lot of great movement around here because kids are always in through the front door, out through the back door, running to the kitchen. So this is a piece that I will treasure forever. And I think it's totally meant for our home. And then the wallpaper in here. So I put up the wallpaper last year. Yellow and white stripes are kind of my thing. You'll notice, or you might notice them quite a bit through our house. But I've always loved how yellow and white stripes feel like summer. I'm definitely a summer girl. I have a July birthday. We live close to the beach. And for our wedding 13 years ago, our little theme was yellow and white stripes. So I just love the idea of being able to incorporate that little nod to our wedding into our home forever. So this is Faro and Ball wallpaper. Took one roll just to accent the space and add a little bit of color and a little bit of personality. Well, maybe a lot of bit of personality, but we love it. So the curtains, I love block print, Indian block print. I have a lot of clothing. There's something that's like cultural, textural, really beautiful about it. And I found this fabric on Etsy. And very inexpensive. Like I think all the fabric together maybe cost me $35. And I made the curtains by lining them, and they just add so much personality and life to the space. And even in the dead of winter, they just make you happy and make you realize that summer's not too far away. Okay, so everybody's favorite room in the house, my favorite room in the house. I poured my heart and soul into this space. Hopefully we could share with you guys a before picture, but this is definitely the largest transformation. So I mentioned that this was the only wall here, the transom wasn't there, and then that wall didn't exist. So this space was pretty wide open, and there was only one window in the center of the space when we bought the home. And again, the first time I saw it, I knew that this house needed a fireplace. That was one of those items on my must-have list for a new house, and this house didn't have it. So of course, when I came in, I was thinking about how can we incorporate a fireplace into this home? Because to me, a fireplace is what says home. So I had this idea to replace the center window with a gas fireplace and then flank the fireplace with 2 new windows, which I thought was a pretty simple ask of a contractor. But in 2016, when we bought the house, I had numerous contractors come out and then just never get back to us with a quote or anything. So And at that time, my DIY skills were very low. Like, I would have never imagined building something like this myself. But 4 years later, I had done a lot of little projects in the house, like put up crown molding, put up the board and batten. I started hanging wallpaper. And I got the crazy idea that I could build a fireplace myself. And I did. So I did everything from the framing to laying the brick face, all of the trim, building out the mantle. We had just a professional hook up the gas line, but it's pretty much one of my favorite things I've ever made. It's just so warm and cozy, and it works in the winter time. It warms up almost the whole house. I love decorating it for every season, and it's just the focal point of this room. And there was an image that I had in my inspiration board when I was planning this space where it had a similar style mirror over the fireplace. So I knew I wanted to do that. I just love the look. And again, the mirror would make the space feel larger because it's not big. I think this room is like 14 by 14, maybe even smaller. And when I put the mirror on top of the mantle, I immediately realized that it reflected the ceiling. And some designers would say, oh, swap out the mirror, put a piece of art. You don't want to reflect the ceiling. But I saw that as a new and exciting challenge to do something fun with my ceiling. The first thing was to find a really cool light fixture that would reflect in the mirror. And I found this amazing mirrored fixture on eBay. It's made to look like an old style fixture. It definitely has like a little bit of a industrial feel to it. But again, I just love that it's reflecting more light, making the space feel larger than it is, and has a really beautiful reflection in the mantle mirror. The second thing is, once the room was done, it was feeling a little bland, and I love color. So I was thinking about how I could incorporate more color into the space without painting the walls a color, because I didn't really like this off-white. So that's when I thought to paint the ceiling blue. I don't know if you could tell, but it's a very faint blue. It actually is old Southern tradition to paint a ceiling blue to rid the home of evil spirits, or a lot of times it happens on old front porches. So I thought, why not pull that idea in here? And I love it. I love the reflection you get in the mirror. I love the contrast with the crown molding and the faux beam strips that I installed. Or it adds another layer to this room. And it really took it from being kind of bland and simple to kicking it up a notch. A major budget saver in here, which I think made a huge difference, is the wood paneling on the walls. So I love the look of tongue and groove paneling. Every home that I save pictures of or kind of drool over in magazines all had this gorgeous tongue and groove planking on the walls. And I looked high and low and could not find a budget-friendly option for myself. It was all super expensive, and probably upwards of $1,400 to $2,000 to cover the walls in regular tongue and groove planking. So I decided, keep in mind I had a lot of time on my hands, this was during the pandemic, that I would take really inexpensive plywood and cut the grooves in the wood with a router. So every one of these grooves is a groove that I made with a router. It was extremely time consuming. I did come up with a jig where it would be a little bit easier for me, but yeah, that's something I'm proud of. I would never have the time to do that again, but it really took a project that would have cost around $2,000. It probably cost me $80 to do the whole room. So I will never do that again. Actually, I did it in one other room, I'm lying, but it really makes a difference, I think. It just adds a layer of texture and personality. And sometimes when I think about designing my home, I like to think of it as like a ship captain's room or ship captain's home. And I think a ship captain would have all tongue and groove walls throughout their home. Also, like, I am not a fan of just plain drywall. As we go through my home, there aren't many walls left that are just plain painted drywall. So I just think a tongue and groove or a wood option like this is a nice way to take a house from just basic builder grade and make it feel more custom. So this is my longest running collection, my clipper ships. And some of them are original paintings and some of them are prints, but I've had this collection now for over 15 years. And the reason I was inspired to collect them is that I was at the Armory show in New York City, which is an art show. I had to be in college still. No, I didn't have a home. I was just collecting things just to collect them, while still probably living with my parents. And John Darien had this installation at the Armory show, which was all of these vintage clipper ship paintings, but the water line on all of the paintings was lined up down this long row. And I always said, oh, one day I'm going to have all these paintings and I'm going to, in my long hallway in my home, line up all the water lines. So when we bought this house, pretty much knowing that this will be our forever home, I knew I wasn't going to have that long hallway. So I said, I have this collection. It's a pretty amazing focal point when they're all together. So I came up with this orientation and I love them. And people still will send me pictures of ship paintings when they're out antiquing or thrifting and ask me if I want another. But I think I closed the door on this collection. I think it's complete. My whole house, my design philosophy is just comfort. Beautiful design, storied design, but also comfort, because I share this home with my husband and my two daughters who are 11 and 7, and I want them to be comfortable here. I don't want them to feel like they're visitors in their own home. So I want them to be able to throw their feet down on the coffee table or lounge out on the sofa without feeling like they're going to mess something up. So everything in my home, especially in this space, is super durable, washable, and already weather worn. Like this coffee table is, it was an old ship hatch door. I bought this on Marketplace too, but you cannot, this table is indestructible. Like nothing, unless you throw gasoline on it and set it on fire, you can't do anything to this table. You can spill on it, put your feet up on it. So I knew that I would have to incorporate some time-worn pieces in order to make this house look textured and layered, but still be comfortable and make sense for our family. And then our sofa is probably, I think, one of the only new pieces, I think one of 3 new pieces that I bought for this home. Everything else in the house is secondhand. And I spent so much time going over different sofa options. Like, we moved in here in August, and I think by almost the beginning of October, I still hadn't made up my mind. And we were sitting on lawn chairs basically in here. So my husband's like, you have to pick something. But I'm glad I took my time. I knew I wanted an English roll arm style sofa. I looked at lots of pictures and books and on Pinterest, and everything I saw that was really timeless in my mind was an English roll arm. So the next thing was finding an English roll arm that would stand up to my young family. We don't eat in here. That's one of my only rules as far as how we use our space. We have eating rooms and we have non-eating rooms, but still they come home sweaty from soccer, or I'll even sit and have a cup of tea here, and I don't want anything to feel too fragile. So this sofa was designed with Krypton fabric so that it resists spills and stains. I can take the slip covers off and throw them in the wash, and they're good as new the next day. I mean, we've had some pretty serious accidents as far as the sofa goes, and everything has come out in the wash. So yes, while everything looks very pulled together, there's a lot of flexibility and there's a lot of room for things to be scrubbed down, washed, and to live up to my family. So the blinds I have in here are chick shades. They're made in India. They've become pretty popular in the design world. And I pretty much had the room all together, and I just knew I needed some more texture and a little bit of print because I had the sofa, which is pretty large, being a single color, the walls being a single color, some of the other accent furniture. And I had made these curtains as well. And I had some print in here, but I was just craving like some natural texture. So I found these and they just totally fit the bill. They're made out of bamboo and they have this really interesting threading design. And while they're not great for privacy, they're great if somebody wants to take a nap in here and dim the space. And I just love the texture that they bring to the house. Since I've gotten them in here, I've added them to a number of other rooms in the house as well. Oh, and then this piece. This is probably my second favorite Facebook Marketplace find. Our TV hides in here. I am a very big advocate for hiding your television. I think my biggest design pet peeve is a TV out and about. So I definitely wanted a piece that I could keep our TV in, and I wanted it to feel beautiful and feel like it went with everything else in our home and didn't take away from the beauty of the space. So I knew I needed an antique. So I searched high and low on Facebook Marketplace until I found this actually not far from my parents' house. My parents live in Delaware, and I will occasionally look on their Facebook Marketplace when I'm not finding what I need here. And my parents are retired. My dad has a pickup truck, and they're big supporters of buying secondhand, buying antiques. So I knew when I found this, it wouldn't be a huge ask to ask my dad to pick this up. So he did, and it's absolutely perfect. Like I said, our TV is stored in here. This is probably a mess, but all of our board games and things are down here. It is such a well-made piece, and it gets everyday use, but it's so beautiful as well. And I think the story of this one is that it came out of a candy store. So in Ocean City, Maryland, it was in a candy store. And when we first got it, there was some old candy pieces that were stuck like underneath some of the shelves. So that was pretty cool. This chair, it's an Astrid chair from Anthropologie. I used to work for Anthropologie, and that was like the iconic chair. It was the current, or the CEO at the time, he designed the chair and it was his favorite chair. So it's kind of one of those things where you worked for the company, you wanted that chair. So I got it at a furniture auction and I loved it. And it was like covered in bright orange floral fabric, which I really tried hard to make it work. At one point, it was in my daughter's nursery, but when we were doing this room, I knew that I just needed to put that chair down here. It was like the right size, the right style. I love the turn feet, how they match the same feet on the sofa. So I bit the bullet and replaced the orange floral fabric with a really pretty soft blue. So no regrets there. Okay, so now I'm gonna take you upstairs. Up here we have our bedrooms and my office. This first room here, up on the left, this is my two daughters' rooms. This is what we call the sister suite. So when we bought the house, this was just kind of a bonus room, and we kept it that way for quite some time, where we had it as a guest room, an office, a playroom. It was just chaos. I would have to be taking Zoom calls on my computer, and there would be Barbie dolls in the background or laundry on the guest room bed. And I really just thought this would be a great room to put both of my girls in. My youngest was kind of transitioning out of her nursery, which was a smaller room, and I just was looking for a way to kind of contain the chaos that comes along with kids. Like I said earlier, I want my kids to enjoy their home and be comfortable here making messes, but I also want the messes a little bit contained. So everything is in here. They have an attached playroom, which it's pure chaos, but that's how they like it. So they just have this suite to do their thing in. They have their little dance parties and sleepovers, and we had so much fun making this for them. So here is really where I flexed my trim work muscle and picked up some new skills. This was just a drywall box essentially, and the eaves were just so cool. I just saw so much potential with doing something fun here with wallpaper. But the room didn't really start to come together until I found these beds on Facebook Marketplace. Another amazing find. And I drove all the way up to Connecticut to get them while the girls were at school one day. But I just couldn't say no to them. And after I got these, the room really came together. There's this like gorgeous inlay of this flower design on here. And when I got them and I was starting to come up with the design for the room, I just knew I didn't want the beds to be overshadowed. We went through so many different wallpaper samples. And then when we saw this, it was just kind of this magical moment where we were like, these are meant to be together. Some of the flower designs in the bed are almost identical to some of the flower designs and the leaf designs in this wallpaper. And what's cool about this wallpaper is that it's a William Morris design, so it's totally timeless. But this was a collection that was redone by Ben Pentreath, where he redid these classic William Morris patterns in these fun, almost retro colors. And like once the sample came in the mail, there was no question that this was the perfect one. The wallpaper colors feel youthful because there's lime green and there's orange and there's peach, but it still goes along with the whole house aesthetic. And it was fun with the girls to go through and say like, okay, so now these are the beds, this is the wallpaper. What other colors should we pull out of the wallpaper to put into the room? And they both agreed on going with a shade of green for the wainscoting on the walls. They love Groot, the character from Guardians of the Galaxy, and we thought that this room was like a Groot green. And actually, when we mixed the paint color, it didn't quite come out right, so we ended up having to mix a custom shade for this room, and we call it Groot green now because it's a custom shade and it looks like Groot. But yeah, I just like want them to have fun in here. As much as I've decorated this space, they've also layered in their own personalities, all of their soccer trophies, all of their books. We're all avid readers in this house. So I love that they've made this space their own. They're so opinionated, which I'm so glad, and I know where they get it from. But they really gave me a lot of ideas, and I know my little one was really into Frozen when we started this, and you know, she loved Elsa's bedroom, which I feel like little elements of this kind of feel like that. It has that Nordic look to it in the wallpaper. They wanted a chandelier, so I made sure we put a chandelier in here. But it's just so fun. It's our favorite room as a family to hang out in. Just the other night, they've been like pretending to be in a dance school together. So they did a little recital here, and my husband and I had front row seats. So it's a nice room. I really feel like them sharing a room has brought them together. So, and I think that's the thing too with like kids' room design is like, yeah, you want it to look picture perfect and have everything match. But I think when I saw this wallpaper, I just saw so much opportunity for them to layer in all their crazy kid stuff and it not feel chaotic. So we have Barbie dolls and soccer trophies, and it all feels good together because there's so much color. This room is just above the garage, so we could access that from below. So I thought rather than just have this kind of weird, crazy panel, I made a little built-in bookcase for them to store some of their books. That's another question I get asked a lot on social media is like, where are all the toys? And they're all behind that door. And that's their space, so we're going to keep it private for them. But I just think when you're thoughtful with design about having places that are just designated for toys, it eliminates chaos in the house. In the kitchen, we've always just had a small little play kitchen, and that's it. That's it for the toys on the main floor. And because we only have the play kitchen, it's all they play with all the time. Like, they're 7 and 11 and they'll still play with that play kitchen because it's the only thing that's down there. So we're less is more when it comes to toys, but we know it's inevitable. So having a space for them really helps. So my blog is Adored House. It got started in, I guess, 2018 is when I started, and I was encouraged to start it by a neighbor who had moved into the neighborhood who had her own following, and she just said, get on there, it's fun. And I didn't even know this community of home-loving people existed on social media, and now it's primarily what I use social media for. So the blog is called Adored House, and so is our Instagram account, and it's a play on our last name, Door, and really like adored house, loving a house. Like, I just want to be able to show people what putting love and hard work into a house can create. It can make your dream house. Very much about loving the one you're with, because I didn't necessarily want this house because it was so plain and simple, but I knew if I put love into it, it would become the house we wanted and the home we dreamed about. So this is our upstairs hall, and I wallpapered this hallway pretty early into our time here. I knew I was just starting to dabble with wallpaper, and I was a little scared about how permanent it is, but I made sure when I chose a style that it would feel timeless, but also up here I wanted to feel a little bit neutral. And since we are somewhat close to the beach, I wanted something that felt like outside and nautical. So I found this really cool wallpaper that has, it almost looks like etching, but it has like little seagull and cloud designs in it. And it just feels soft and beautiful. And I don't know, there's something that it makes almost like a lightness. Like, I see this wallpaper and it just makes me feel calm. And when we got the wallpaper done and we started adding character to this space, I said, you know what? I buy a lot of antique art. I love having photography in our homes, but I'm a trained portrait painter. So I was like, I have to have some of my artwork in my home. My mom has more of my artwork in her home than I do. So in 2017, I think it was, I started making this painting when my girls were actually these ages, probably 2 and 5 at the time. And this moment with them in their little tutus actually happened in this very spot when they were little. So it's a way of just commemorating how little they were when we moved into this house, and how much the house has changed, because all white walls in the background, that's definitely changed. But we love having this piece here. It took me a very long time to complete because I'm a busy lady, but it felt really good over the last year to just sit and complete this. And we love having this captured memory in the same spot that it took place. I also built all the framing for it, and it makes such a beautiful focal piece at the end of our hallway. So while I said the house was pretty bare bones and like a blank canvas when we bought it, it has a laundry chute, which was like such a game changer for us, because there's nothing better than like cleaning up and just throwing it all down into the basement. So we love that feature. It gets a lot of use. So this is the most recently designed space in our home, and this is my office. The end of last year, I created a company with my friend Lindsay, and we have a boutique branding and marketing agency, and I needed a space just for me. So this was my youngest daughter's room when she was little, and it just, once they moved into the sister suite together, I knew that this would be a great space for an office because it's kind of small. But I wanted a serene color. I love the idea of floor to ceiling beadboard. I did this in one other room in my house, and it just, again, like elongates the space, makes it feel super tall, way taller than it actually is. And I wanted to add picture frame molding, which I plan on adding in more rooms in my house because it just instantly makes it feel more timeless and classic. And also, it leaves a lot less holes in the wall when you make a mistake. So this room, I just wanted to draw from colors and nature and just be super serene and soft. All of the artwork here I've collected over time. They're all pastoral scenes or landscape scenes, and it just feels calming. I love having this as my backdrop when I take video calls. It just feels peaceful and sweet, and it's a nice backdrop. This room was actually started, the whole scheme came together from this chair. So I bought this at a furniture auction, and it was made by an artist named Leslie Oshman, who lives in Amsterdam. And what she does is she takes antique paintings that she finds throughout Europe, and she adheres them to old mid-century modern furniture and then laminates them. So I've had this chair for a while. I knew I wanted it in my office, and it inspired the whole space. So now this is where my business partner sits when she comes and has meetings with me. But it's a great space. I love working in here. I really didn't need to buy much for this space at all. It's all things I've collected over time or repurposed. A lot of things reflect other previous chapters in my life, like this bird here. It's not real. This one's made out of paper, but I used to make these paper birds and sell them, and they sold through Anthropology. And this is like only one of two that I have left of the ones I made, but it's one of those things where it's like, I would never have the time to make something like this now. So I'm glad I have this memory of when I used to be able to like hand stitch individual feathers on a bird. But that's something that's been in storage because I really haven't had a spot for it. So I'm glad in our office, we have a spot for it now. There's also this picture here. That's my dad and I. He used to do craft shows when I was a kid where he used to paint and sell these Santa Claus figurines, and I was his buddy. I would go with him everywhere. So that is me in my hat that's super 90s, and I used to make those hand-woven pot holders and sell them. So crafting has always been a huge part of my life. So now I'm going to take you into our primary bedroom. We've done a couple of things in that room just to make it feel really bright and light. And it's one of my favorite rooms in the house because it just feels so serene and peaceful, and it's a great room to wake up to. Probably the best compliment that I get on Instagram is that people think my house is old, because when we were looking for a home, I wanted an old house. It was the height of fixer-upper, Joanna Gaines fame. Everybody was just loving old houses again. I grew up watching This Old House, the show, and like my mind was just set on having an old home. So buying this house that at the time was only 4 years old was a little bit heartbreaking for me. But my husband, who takes all the credit for it all, even though he's never picked up a power tool in his life, he said, why don't we buy this house that's only 4 years old, that has a new hot water heater, new appliances, the plumbing's fine, the electrical's fine, and you can make it look old. So he takes all the credit for the birth of Adored House. But he was right. And it's been so much fun to bring old pieces into this house and old house charm to make it look like the old house I wanted. But it still has the functionality, and it still has an updated air conditioning system so that it's comfortable in here. So it's been fun. So every decision that I make, it's looking back at an older home or taking references of books of older homes, because that's what I wanted. So it's been fun to try to make this look old. When we first moved in here, I thought I wanted a really dark space. So I painted the room dark gray, and the best way I can describe the color is like wet cement. And after about a year, I hated it. So not that long ago, I repainted it all bright white and then did the board and batten trim on the walls. I just recently added the wallpaper after having a sample for months and months, if not years, and I just love it. It was the perfect finishing touch for in here. Again, a lot of vertical stripes. It makes this space seem way taller than it is. Our ceilings are only 8 feet tall, but all the vertical stripes make it feel a lot taller. And yeah, I just love the mix of prints and patterns in here. It feels layered and eclectic, but because everything's a really nice soft color, it still feels really serene and peaceful. This bed, probably one of my most asked "where's that bed from?" questions on social media. And unfortunately for my followers, but fortunately for me, it was another Facebook Marketplace find. I got this for $25 and it is an amazing bed. I think like spindle details on a bed make it feel super old and timeless, but a lot of times antique spindle beds are really rickety and they aren't made in queen sizes because that wasn't a standard bed size back in the day. So I was very lucky to find this queen headboard and footboard and side rails, and it is solid oak. Like my husband saw this and he was like, is that bed, like, is it gonna fall apart? Is it even, do we have to be careful getting in and out of bed? But it is not. It's a beautiful solid oak bed. I did refinish it because it looked super orange when I bought it, but I always joke that if I one day have a furniture line, this is the first thing I'm going to reproduce because I get asked all the time where it's from. It was another piece that I found down in my parents' area and my parents brought up here for me. So my dad drove about an hour from him to this kind of shady area to pick up this bed, but it was only $25, so well worth it in my book. Up here, I also have the chick shades again, the bamboo shades. They just add a nice texture and color. They pull out some of the warm tones that are in the bed, but they don't offer a lot of privacy at all, but this is our bedroom. So something that I did is underneath them, I installed roller shades that are activated through our Alexa. So behind the chick shades come the blackout roller shades. So we have the privacy and the light filtering, but we still have a nice like textural element in the room. This was another Facebook Marketplace find. I love this piece. I feel like I stole it from a guy. He was moving out to move in with his girlfriend, and he sold it to me for, I think, like $40. But it's a beautiful English chest that belonged to his mom. Yeah, but this is kind of our little hair station with the girls. So I have 2 girls with long blonde hair. So this is where I'm doing ponytails every day and combing out rats' nests. And then off of our bedroom here is our primary bath. So this was a project that I did in about 3 years ago. This was a full gut renovation, my first and only, and this was a serious test on my patience and my skill level. But this was a very dated bathroom with a kind of like a sliding door shower. Everything was beige. There was cracks in the tile. And I did a lot of work in here. So I did all the beadboard, added the trim. This piece is really cool. So this was actually a kitchen table that I cut up and kind of Frankensteined, I like to say, into a vanity. I found the vanity top on Marketplace too. And then I had this marble backsplash made. But yeah, this was a cool piece to make. I mean, everything from like the medicine cabinets to the light fixtures, those all came from Facebook Marketplace. But I love getting ready in here, and the shower is super spa-like, and every one of those tiles I hand laid, so I take a lot of pride in this space. And the floors were cool. So there was a really old crappy tile on here, and I destroyed those and got them out of here. And then I wanted to continue the hardwood look that goes through the house. So I actually put down these hardwood floors myself, and then I painted them. And just the nature of painted floors, they've gotten pretty beat up over time, but I love that. I just think it makes the house look older and more authentic and weather worn. So yeah, it's a great space. And this color is called Ionic Ivory by Sherwin-Williams. And when you look at the swatch, it looks white. And those are some of my favorite colors, where you're at the store and it looks white, but then when you actually get it on the walls, you see how much pigment is actually in that color. That's kind of my rule of thumb when it comes to picking most paint colors, is like, if it looks white in the store, but then you get it home and you get it on the walls, you see like how much of a punch that color actually holds. I think a lot of times people like make their paint color decision in the store, and it turns out totally different than what they think. So yeah. Something that we did a couple years ago too, to add some charm to the outside of the house, is I built window boxes for outside these front windows, and love the color that it brings in. It's like one of the nicest things to wake up. I made sure that I put red flowers in here this year because the hummingbirds come to them. So it's pretty cool to wake up in the morning and see the silhouettes of the hummingbirds buzzing around. And now we'll go outside and I'll show you the rest of the garden. So when we first bought the house, like the rest of it, the landscaping was really bland. There was really just a hedge of boxwoods, and I've always loved hydrangeas. So we chose limelight hydrangeas, which they got way bigger than we ever thought they would. They're almost 12 feet tall right now, but everybody knows us as the hydrangea house in the neighborhood when they ask where we live. So they're pretty magnificent, and we love them. And they bloom like this until about November. And then we cut them and have lots of dried flowers to give families and friends. So this garden, we just call it our side garden. But when we bought the house, none of this was here. There was just that one tree that has the lights in it back there. Everything we've added over the last 8 years. I am a big fan of getting discounted perennials at the end of the season. So like August, September, you get a discount perennial. It looks terrible, but then it comes back the next year and looks super beautiful. So I'd say 90% of this garden is composed of end of season sales. But we love this space. The arch was another Facebook Marketplace find. And then we recently put this little fence in to pull it all together. But we have birthday parties over here. We have garden parties. I host a garden party every August for some of my Instagram followers to come, and we have like a little potluck ladies' night. So it's just one of my favorite spaces. My grandmother used to say that gardening is like therapy, like getting your hands in the dirt, pulling weeds. It's very therapeutic. So a lot of therapy in this area. My husband also loves working outdoors and working in the garden. His grandfather was an avid grower of dahlia flowers, and he actually was a professional flower farmer and had the largest crop of baby's breath flowers in the world at one point. So it's in his genetics to be out here in the garden as well. So we just have a lot of fun. The girls get involved. They try very hard and resist picking my little apples over here. But it's just a great space, and we love it. And it's fun to look at how much it's transformed and grown in the last 8 years since we've lived here. This is our tree of lights, where this is the only tree that was here when we moved in, and it's grown quite a bit. But we love having the lights in it, and it just adds like a magical, whimsical look back here. We do like doing a lot of entertaining, so The kids like to play under this tree. It just adds a little bit of ambiance. And our little tree swing is super cute. When I saw this tree and the way it was shaped, and knowing I would have 2 little girls, when we looked at this house, I just knew it would be perfect for a tree swing. So I have some of the cutest pictures of them on this, and I love when all the little kids come over and hop on. Last year, I built something that was on my bucket list. It's an outdoor shower. So we love this shower so much. We actually primarily shower in it in the summertime, whether we are working in the yard or we just went to the beach, like everybody's out here. And it's just an amazing feature to our home. And I think we've inspired about 10 other friends to build outdoor showers on their property. I think what makes a house a home is it being a reflection of you. For us, our home reflects our passions, what we like to do, who we are as people, our favorite colors, the town we live in, the area of New Jersey we live in, and it feels like us. It represents our times in our life, and I think anybody can have a house that's filled with stuff from Home Goods or other big box stores, and when you layer things into your home that you love and you've collected, it becomes a real reflection of you.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Jody. Welcome to my home in Atlanta. Let me show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Jody Bond. I'm a mother of 4. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a designer, but I also show people how to create homes they love using DIY, and I share this with my community online. So I live here about 30 minutes outside of the city of Atlanta. We're out here in the suburbs. This home was built in 1984, so it's not terribly old, but when we found it initially and moved into it, it needed a lot of work. There had been no renovation done whatsoever on the house. So basically it was a blank canvas for me to play with. Welcome to my entryway. As you can see, this is somewhat of a small space, but let me tell you, this space used to be much smaller. So if you see this beam right here in the side of my entryway, this used to be a wall. And so when you walked into my front door, you were hit in the face with a staircase and then a narrow hallway, which really closed this space down. And so as soon as we moved in here, I realized I really wanted to open this space up. So the first project that we did in this house was to remove this wall, open our space up so that the entryway now isn't quite so cramped and it extends into the living room. One of my very first DIYs that I did in this house was to redo the stairway. Now, I didn't know what I was doing at the time. All I knew is I hated the way that this looked. This house, when we moved in, it was from the 1980s and it was full of very dark wood and huge, thick carpet. It seemed like it was this thick. And the previous owners, bless their hearts, had 8 cats. And so it was dingy and pretty dark. And I hated the fact that when someone entered my front door, they were just confronted with all of this dingy, dark space. So without really knowing what I was doing and not really being a DIYer at the time, I decided to just rip that carpet out. And what I found underneath it were pine boards. These boards are actually not supposed to be exposed. They're not stain proof, but I decided I was just going to do it anyways because it was better than the cat carpet that I had before. So I stained the pine, painted the risers, and then we did a very inexpensive railing here. These are actually 2x4s from the lumber store and a 3x3 post, and just put this up. And this was intended to be just a temporary makeover for this space until we had the time and the budget to fully redo it. And the exciting thing is I'm actually going to be starting that project later this month, but for now, this has been working for us. One thing that I love to do in design, especially if I have a space that I'm not fully able to finish at the time, is to use the art of distraction. And you will find this very often in my house. And so this wall right here is what I like to call the art of distraction. So we have these stairs right here that aren't the best quality. They really need to be replaced. Instead of hiding that, I actually try to draw attention to that area in some other way. So I put up this really fun wallpaper. It's peel and stick wallpaper. It's easy to remove, but for the time being, it makes this space actually have a lot of character, a lot of personality. And then eventually, when I redo this entire space, maybe we'll keep it, maybe we won't. But in the meantime, it's a nice place to look at. I am a big fan of art, but collecting a lot of art over time is a process. And so sometimes I make use of generic art, and that's what I've done here on this wall. I actually semi-recently put this wallpaper up, and I wanted to fill it with some vintage art, but I'm still on the lookout for that art. So in the meantime, I just grabbed some pieces from Target and Home Goods, and I put them up on this space to fill it out. And then as I find the perfect piece of art, then I'll start replacing those things and filling the space with things I really, really love. Now, let's head to my living room. Follow me. So this is my living room. This room has been the most challenging room for me to design, and that's because it's not symmetrical in hardly any way. So when we took this wall out, if you notice, the entryway here is not lined up properly with the fireplace, and so there's no way to get the furniture that we need in this space and have it all lined up, which has been a process for me. I'll continually move things around. I decided to fill up this room with a curved sofa, and this sofa is actually also a very old DIY. I found this sofa on Facebook Marketplace for maybe $200. It was covered in a palm tree print. It was not very nice to look at, but with the help of my neighbor, we took all the covering off, sewed a new cover back together, and then attached it, which was a really fun project to do. My parents are both Dutch, and one aspect of the Dutch culture that has really inspired me is this term and this word gezellig. It's sort of like the word hygge, and it's this idea of combining a beautiful space with a story and great company, putting it all together to create an atmosphere that is homey and warm and inspiring. And so if you'll notice, a lot of places and pieces in my home have a story to them. One of those pieces is this guitar. So both of my sons play the guitar, and they learned to play guitar on this guitar particularly. They both played their first concerts with this guitar, and the neat thing about this guitar is that their great-grandfather made it. So last year, actually, it got a small crack in it, and so we had to retire it, but I didn't just want to put it away in the attic space. I thought this guitar has such a story, and it's so unique that it was handmade by a family member. So I just put it up on the wall. And the nice thing is my kids will take it off and they'll still play it, which I love. This is an art piece that I actually made live on Pinterest television last year. Funny story behind this live. I was putting this whole piece together, teaching people how to make it, to do their own DIY floral wall covering, as we'll call it. But my microphone was connected to my AirPods, which were in the kitchen. And so I was live on TV for about 45 minutes to an hour doing a instructional video, and nobody could hear me. It was really stressful because I could read from their comments that they couldn't hear me, but the show must go on. I didn't know what was going on with my sound. So we made this, and hopefully without any verbal cues, people got the idea of how to put this together. It's a really easy DIY. Behind this are just a few nails that I attached to the wall in the shape that I wanted this design to go. And then I used chicken wire twisted it up so it's a bit of a tube that is twisted, and then just placed florals and dried flowers and grasses in at different angles to create the look I wanted. Very easy, but I love it. I love to decorate with old books. You'll find those around, all around my house. Sometimes though, I want my books that I'm actually reading to be displayed as well. So I'll take their jackets off, and you can find that here. Some of the books I'm reading are not vintage and old, but when I remove their jackets, they look vintage and old, and then I can display them with all my vintage books, which I love. Another DIY I did a couple years ago was this Anthropologie mirror hack. So Anthropologie sells this really popular, famous gold gilded mirror, and I thought, I bet I can make that. So I bought a mirror in the same shape, and then I used wooden decals, attached it to my mirror, used spray paint and rub and buff, and was able to get a very similar look at a much more reasonable price, which I loved. I found this piece online a couple years ago, and I really love it. So this is a Russian artist, and she likes to portray human nature in just different unique ways. And this particular picture represents, it looks like a woman from maybe the 50s who's not able to go off to war, but is dreaming of going off to war. And she's put herself in her cloak and she's looking in the mirror. It's called Soldier. But it spoke to me in a different way. When I saw it, I was going through a divorce, and it was a bit public, and I had to show up online every single day, and it was a really difficult thing to do. And so I saw this photo of this woman, and she's just in a vulnerable state, yet she's looking at herself. To me, it looks like she's looking at herself in a screen, and she's all armored up. She's got her suit, and the look in her eyes says, we can do this. And that just really spoke to me, and it inspired me and gave me courage to continue to show up and to recognize that I can do it too. When we were searching for a home about 10 years ago, we knew we wanted to be in this particular area of Atlanta. It had the schools that we wanted, but we could not find a home that we loved that was in our price range. There was truly only one home on the market, which was this one. And it was so ugly, if I'm being honest, that I refused to even come look at it. I thought, that is not my home. I don't care if I have to move somewhere else and not be quite so close. I'm not moving to this home. It's not for me. A friend of mine said, well, why don't you just go look at the house? And I agreed begrudgingly. And we drove out to the area, and it's actually so beautiful out here. A lot of the homes here in the suburbs of Atlanta are very new. And so they're very cookie cutter. Every home in the neighborhood looks exactly the same. But this neighborhood is old. It's one of the older neighborhoods in the area. And so as you drive in, the homes are built around the trees. There's a lot of hills. There's a lot of character. Each home was different. So I immediately loved the neighborhood more than the houses that I was seeing. And then as we drove around and saw this house, there was just something about it. It was so interesting. As soon as I saw it, I knew it was our home. Now I'm gonna take you to my kitchen. Follow me. Welcome to our kitchen. This is the hardest working room in the house. It's quiet and peaceful right now, but come 2:30, when my kids start coming home from school, it is just the hub of the home. We are always bustling, always cooking, eating. In fact, one thing I've learned with my older children is that the key to a young adult's heart is through food. I didn't know this before. And so one thing I've been doing with my family on Sunday nights is we've been meal prepping for the entire week. We have a really busy schedule, and without meal prepping, we will be eating fast food all the time, just grabbing snacks. But if we take some time to meal prep, then we have a whole fridge stocked with healthy foods that everybody wants to eat. And so it's really fun. On Sunday nights, I'll be down here cooking all sorts of things, and they love to jump in. My son has his famous no-bake cookies that he usually makes and throws in the freezer. My oldest daughter is really into healthy eating, and so she makes these ginger shots. And let me tell you, the dishes on Sunday nights are up to here. I mean, every counter space is full, but it's so fun. We've got the music blaring, but great memories are being made. One of the most defining aspects of this kitchen is this bright green cabinet color. Now, my kitchen has been through quite the transition. When we first bought this home, it was very dark and there were a lot of cabinets. So there were cabinets lining up the wall, cabinets that went over top of the window, cabinets down here. There were cabinets that extended out over the peninsula. And this area, the appliances had never been updated since the 1980s. And so it had this small little oven, a built-in oven, and just cabinets, very, very dark stained wood. So one of the first things that we did was rip out all of those cabinets because it really made the space feel so small. And then we tiled the wall with bright tile, added in some open shelving to really open this space up. Now, my kitchen cabinet color has gone through quite a process as well. So this started out as a very dark wood stain. And when I moved in, I painted it with gray chalk paint, and I had it like that for a few years. Well, as time went on, I realized I really wanted to infuse this room with more color, and I decided to go incredibly bold, and I painted my lower cabinets in a mustard yellow, which I loved. We had the uppers white still, and the lower cabinets were yellow, and it was just like a party in here every time, full of sunshine. But when I became a single parent, I was considering selling the house, and I thought I was going to sell. And so I thought, mustard yellow cabinets might be a little bit of a hard sell. So I repainted the colors a soft eggshell blue, and it was really peaceful, very beautiful in this space. Well, I decided not to sell the house and realized that that baby blue wasn't really a reflection of me, and I wanted something more bold. At the time, I was upgrading my appliances to these Smeg appliances, and they had this avocado green oven with a matching hood, and I thought, well, why don't I just do a tone on tone with that, which made me decide on this green color for my cabinets, which is also very fun, but it's very funny to look back in my photo library and see how many different colors my kitchen has been over the years. So oddly enough, some of my favorite pieces in my house are simply my vintage dinnerware. I am obsessed with vintage dinnerware. And so I buy it anytime I find some good vintage pieces. These are some of my favorite here. They're an Art Deco set of glasses, and I keep these on display, but we use them every single day. Some more of my favorite pieces in this space are these handmade pottery. My brother and his wife actually have an incredible company where they make handmade mugs, and this is their handmade pour over, and I love these pieces. They're my favorite. Each of these pieces are hand etched and then hand painted. They're so unique. And so I collect those, and I keep these displayed as well, although everything on these shelves, as I said, we use on the daily. This is a pretty small kitchen, and I wanted a smaller table for this space, but it was difficult to find the right size, so I decided to make one. These legs are from a company called Pretty Pegs, and they create table legs and chair legs for people who want to DIY their furniture. And then this tabletop I found, I think on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, painted it, and then put the two together and found a table, or created a table that was the right size for this space. So if you've noticed, my table is set. I actually started doing this a couple years ago, keeping my tables set. And this is for two reasons. Number one, it makes my life very convenient when it's time for dinner. Number two, my children don't cover it. Well, let's be honest. Me and my children don't throw all of our junk on it if it's set. And so this is a hack that I've learned, which is just to keep my house organized and to feel put together. I keep my table set, and then we're ready to eat when it's time. Now, I'd love to show you the dining room. welcome to my dining room. This room is used every night. This is where my kids and I eat dinner, talk about the day, connect. As you can see, my table is set, as my little life hack that I learned is to set these tables, keep the room clean. This door was one of the products that I created in my first business. So the first business that I started out of this home was to design and create furniture. And this was one of the products that we created and that we would sell. I didn't end up keeping that business. I transferred my work over to design, but I love keeping this door here just because it's a reminder of where I started. This piece is actually an IKEA shoe rack that I transformed into my daughter's art supply. We keep it over here. My youngest daughter is so creative. She's always making beautiful pieces of art. So everything that she has is stashed in here. I wanted to make this piece look a little bit more interesting. When I bought it, it was just white and it sat on the floor. It didn't have legs. So I added some legs from Pretty Peg. And then I painted this side in stripes and added a fun little wallpaper print on this side. Most of my furniture in this space is from Joybird, but I also have a couple vintage pieces right here, these chairs at the end of the table. And then this cabinet is from Castlery. One way I like to design is to really use statement lighting pieces. And this piece is from the brand Mitzi. It's very oversized for this room, but I really like it because it makes such a statement. It sets the stage for the room, and I can't really imagine the room without it. The other day I watched the Joker movie in theaters, and then I was out at my local antique shop and found this sad Joker and had to pick him up. He reminded me of the movie, and well, I just wanted him in my home with me. This is my bar area. I actually host a lot, and so I keep some of my barware here and then some of it is in the kitchen, but these are the pieces that I like to display. Just the other day I was out at the antique store and I found this sad clown. He's a vintage watercolor painting and I thought he'd be perfect for this space, so I picked him up. He makes me happy. I wanted to add a little bit more personality to this room, so I ended up creating this wall molding. It's a decorative wall molding. I was inspired by some European homes that I had seen that had similar molding like this, and it really just helps give some character to this room, where without it, it was a little bit bland, a little lackluster. Something really interesting about this home, as we drove up and I saw it for the first time, I had an intuition that, number one, this was our home, and number two, that I would build a business out of this home. It just flashed into my head as soon as I saw it, which was interesting because at the time, my youngest was 6 months old. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was homeschooling our kids. And so it was such an unusual knowing for me to have about this home. So as we toured the home and looked at what it really wasn't the home that I was searching for at the time. I was wanting a new build. I was wanting just something easy to move my family into, and this home was not it. But I just had a feeling that this was our home, so we jumped in. We were not looking for a renovation project at the time, but we decided to take it on. Now I'll take you upstairs. Let's go. This is my primary bedroom. This is my retreat. This is my quiet space that I love to go to after everybody has settled down and is in their bedrooms for the night. I really wanted to create a Parisian modern feeling bedroom, and I ended up painting this accent wall in a dramatic black, and especially at night when I have the lights low and just these side lamps on, it's so moody and cozy in here with this black wall. But I just kept one wall black because during the day, actually, I like to have this room bright and lit up. I do a lot of work in my bedroom, and so all the rest of the walls in here are white, and that allows me to get a lot of light in during the day. I added this accent molding in this room as well, which really gives the room some more of that character. My bed is a romantic mauve velvet, which I really love. And then I love to mismatch my bedding. This bedding is from an Australian company called Kip & Co. They make really nice linens and I love their prints and their patterns. I hung curtains in the same colorway as my bed. Those are also velvet, so it helps give the room a cohesive look. The lighting in this room is from Mitzi, so these are their wall sconces and then the chandelier as well. This piece of art I love as well. It's called Floating and it's so ethereal and dreamy, and I love also the colors in this space with these teals that match with the light purple here. I think it really coordinates well. I carried that same color scheme over here to the dresser where I color blocked a light teal at the bottom with a white on top, and it really helps combine the space and marry those two colors from the painting over here to my dresser. And then this side of the wall right over here is actually in transition. When I did my closet makeover, which I'll show you in just a moment, I actually took my dresser from this space and I moved it over to the closet area. And I've been wondering what to use here instead. I really like every piece in my house to be utilized and to be a functioning piece. I don't like wasted furniture or wasted pieces, yet I didn't need any more dressers or clothing storage. So I got the idea to actually do a built-in fireplace. And this will be the project that I'm working on next. I actually go get my fireplace this week. It's an electric fireplace, and I'll be DIYing again and creating an entire fireplace wall over on this side where I'll mount a TV, and this room is going to be just that much more cozy when I'm finished. Off of the bedroom is the primary bathroom. I'm actually very excited to share this bathroom with you because it is another room in progress. And I've said that a lot on this tour, but that's because oftentimes, especially when you're renovating a home, it can take time. And what I believe is that that is all right. There is no rush to finish things. If you need to take your home in stages, that's totally fine. But one way I like to do it is to give it, like I said, just a little bit of love, just a little bit of elevation, so that while you're waiting to do that space, it can still be a space that you enjoy. And this room is absolutely that way. I need to renovate this entire bathroom, but in the meantime, I've done what I like to call a lipstick renovation, and I want to show you that now. This bathroom was very outdated and pretty demoralizing, if I'm being honest, to use, and so I really wanted to give it some elevation, and I did so with a bunch of temporary solutions. When I renovate, this will be a double vanity, but in the meantime, I used what I had. So I repainted the original vanity, I added a caning feature, new hardware, and then I went online and found just an inexpensive vanity top, added the vanity, added an Amazon fixture to the space, and really helped elevate what was already here. For the floors, I used peel and stick tile. And the funny thing is about this flooring, since I knew I wanted it to be very temporary, I didn't adhere it very well because I wanted it to be easy to pull up. So it's pulling up in a couple places, but that's actually how I want it. I used peel and stick wallpaper and just covered the walls in this happy pink print, and then added a board and baton feature on these walls over here. My favorite feature is the art piece that I have at the end here. It's really just such a pop, and it takes your eyes away from all of the spaces that need renovation, like this bathtub, and is such an eye catcher, such an eye grabber, and I like this space. I'll actually be a little sad when I take it all out and renovate it. My style is a bit eclectic. I really focus on the feel of a home more than staying within a particular style. And so I draw a lot of inspiration from European design. I also love a little flair of the bohemian natural style. And I infuse everything that I do with a lot of natural sunlight, a lot of greenery and plants, and then try to sprinkle in different elements in the room that are a little surprising, quirky, and hopefully make someone smile. My favorite space in my house right now is my bedroom. So as a busy mom of 4, this is the place where I can close my door and retreat and find some peace and some quiet. I am a huge reader, and so I'm often reading in my bedroom at night when my kids go to bed. My favorite DIY that I have done in this home is my walk-in closet. So my closet space when we first moved in was dismal. It was maybe 5 feet wide, which isn't too small, but it has sloped ceilings on it. So it really cut the closet space in half. There was no space for clothes, no space for shoes, no space for storage. A year ago, I started to renovate this room, and then just 4 months ago, I finished a second phase of renovation and made an amazing walk-in closet that has enough storage, enough space for everything that I could need, and I'm so proud of it. Let me show you my closet space now. So this is the walk-in closet that I created. I'm very proud of this space. You will not believe where we came from. So what used to be in this space was one small closet right here. It's about this wide. And then another small closet right here. A narrow hallway that then opened up to this space and then what is beyond this wall. It was really a lot of wasted space. I really needed closet space. Instead, we just had a bunch of random storage space that was a dumping ground for clutter. And I really, really wanted to make this room better. What I did last year was to take down the small wall that was here, repair the ceiling, and then I bought the IKEA PAX wardrobe system, but I had to hack it because the PAX wardrobe system goes up, I believe, 80 inches or so, and my walls were not that high. So I utilized their drawers and I utilized some of their accessories, but I actually built my own walls and partitions here so that I could create a space that was custom to this room. The first thing I did in this space was to build a wall here, and that helped separate this room from the room that's behind it and create this entire room a closet space. However, it was still pretty disjointed with an enclosed closet over here and an enclosed closet over here. So the first step was to remove the closet walls that were in this space. I wanted to use the IKEA PAX wardrobe system. I did not want to have to be building my own drawers for this space, yet it wasn't going to fully fit in this room because the side partitions of the PAX system are pretty high and they wouldn't fit with this sloped ceiling. So what I did was I purchased their drawers and some of their accessories, and then I built my own side partitions with their dimensions. That way I was able to use some of their features like these pull-out drawers and pants racks, but it would fit in this space with these sloped ceilings. I did this side of the closet remodel about a year ago, and it was so much work. It took me a few months, and it was very intimidating. I had never hung ceiling drywall before. I was having to mess with electrical and do a lot of things that I had no experience with. And so after I finished this side of the room, I stopped, and I wasn't sure if I was wanting to finish this side of the closet. However, after a year of looking at this disjointed room, I decided to go for it. And so a few months ago, I did the same thing. I pulled down this wall. I rebuilt another wall here. And then, as I said before, I took my IKEA dresser and I created a small built-in over here. So my dresser space can be in this area. And then the neat thing about this second phase of the build is that I had learned so much doing this side of the room that when I took this on, it was actually a breeze. And the whole build only took me a couple weeks instead of a few months. And the workmanship, in my opinion, is quite a bit better. So it's kind of cool to see the progress that I made as I continue to do DIYs and learn how to build. I love this little nook area right here. I found this vintage dresser and I knew I wanted it in the space. And I added a vintage vanity mirror and a very Art Deco inspired light. I love to repeat color and pattern. I find that sometimes that's pretty unexpected. So I actually got the idea for these stripes on the wall from my bench here that used to be in my bedroom. I think the repeat here is just a really fun way to incorporate this color into the space. My favorite feature of this room is the wallpaper that I hung on the ceiling. Again, I hung this wallpaper when I did my first phase of this remodel, and it was another one of those arts of distraction where I wasn't fully finished with the space, but I wanted it to have a wow factor. So I added this wallpaper on the ceiling, which really gave me that, and then extended the black down from the ceilings and then to the side wall here. Now, let me show you what's behind this curtain. So this is a secret room behind my closet through my bedroom, which is kind of like a little tunnel situation. And this is a room in transition right now. This used to be my office space, but earlier this year, my two teenagers who were sharing a room really needed to be separated. So I thought, you know what, let's just put one of them in this space. And I turned this into a bedroom earlier this year. At first, I was a little nervous about what it would be like to have a teenager sort of in my room, because that's essentially what it is. But it's worked out so far and we coexist pretty easily, and so it hasn't been bad at all. These built-ins right here on this side of the wall are actually pretty special to me. They were the first real project that I took on after I became a single parent, and the first project that I had done that I had to use some substantial power tools, which I was very intimidated to do. But it was actually pretty great. I again used IKEA. I used the IKEA system for the base here, and then I built in some shelves above it, built in a window seat, and it was very empowering to be able to create this space and know that I could do it all by myself. I created this space as my office initially, and so this used to have my desk here and my chairs here, and I could look out the window. But for the time being, while we have a teenager in this space, we put an old couch up here, we've got our TV over here, and it's usable for our family in this season of life. Home is very important for me, especially in this season of life. My children are getting older and life is so busy. There's a lot of travel going on, but my home is where my family and I are rooted. It's where we can come back to at the end of travel or at the end of a long day, and we can congregate often in the kitchen where we do eating snacks, laughing, goofing off, and really finding togetherness again. One thing I found that is really important to me about home is to have plants or a garden. And this is because it requires maintenance, consistent maintenance. And what I love about that is it keeps me coming back to home. It keeps me coming back to my community. I have a wonderful community of neighbors. And so I don't want to ever get too busy to remember to check in to our home base.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.